Hi, my name is Hannah Grace. I'm in high school, and my favorite color is blue. I don't have any of the fancy electronics like cameras or the round LED things to make my face brighter. So, maybe someday, but not yet. I just have my fairy lights for now and my LED lights behind my bed. So, and I've got my lamp, but that makes it really bright. So, we're not doing that. Sorry. So the reason I am doing this is, but the reason I said about the lighting is because if like y'all don't like my lighting or something, I'm sorry. But the reason I am doing this is to tell others about Christ. I have been a Christian for a long time now. And one day when I was 7, it was a Saturday, we had just watched The New Gods Not Dead, the first one. Then I we had a friend of ours get saved, so there was just a lot going on, and like you felt God everywhere. So I was laying in my bed that night, and I just said, God, forgive me of my sins. I walked into the living room, my parents just sitting there on the couch, and I told them, Mama, Daddy, I gave my life to Christ. And you gotta realize, a child giving their life to Christ is a parent's dream if the parents are Christian. So, of course, me being 7, they wanted to make sure I understood everything. With that being said, they asked me questions and said, are you sure? Why do you think this? How do you know you're saved? And just all that. And I answered them perfectly. Then the next day, I went up to the altar, talked to my pastor, and of course, he asked me a bunch of questions, and I answered them pretty well. So, the next Sunday after that, I got baptized. Well, if you are a Christian, you know that is not the end of the story at all. That's just the very beginning. When I was in 6th grade, I had just joined our youth group, and we have something called D Now, Disciple Now. It is a 2-night event where we stay at friend or somebody's house, and you're separated by grade and gender. So, guys, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, they were all separated. Then girls, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 grade. That was the idea. So, anyway, it was the first night of that. And the guy had the speaker, the theme was Open Our Eyes, and he said, we are like a lion in our cage, rattling and roaring to get out. There's something stirring up inside that cage, trying to be set free. That night, I realized I had not fully opened my eyes and taken that step out of the cage to truly follow God. I believe highly that I believe it 100% that I was saved when I was 7 years old. But I did not take that next step out of the cage and out of my comfort zone until I was in 6th grade. You're probably like, Hannah, that's still really young. I still struggle. I struggle all the time. And if you are a Christian, you know you can't escape that. There are going to be times where you feel like you are on fire and have this spark inside you, and you don't want to let it go. And your hands are so tight. They're like, I'm not letting this go. I'm keeping the spark. But then school starts back. And the drama starts to come in. So you loosen up a little. Start to drift a little. You're still close, but you're not as tight as you were. So the drama loosens it. Bullies come in. They loosen it even more. Oh no, my friends aren't Christians. I don't want to be left out, so that loosens it even more. My friends aren't Christian, and they don't want me being Christian, or they won't be friends with me. So I'm just going to be a Christian when I'm at church or when I'm in private. My friends are smoking and having fun. I'm going to start trying that. They're drinking. I'm going to have fun with that. And eventually, you completely lose contact with God. But the thing is, truly, He never let go. You were the one that let go. God stays where He is. He never moves. We're the ones that do this all the time. All the time. Sometimes we're holding on really tight, and then some days we act like we have nothing to do with Him. We don't want anything to do with Him. Please understand. God loves you and will never leave you. He is always there for you. Real quickly, I want to talk about my experience last night, which made me want to do this. So, I've got to get my notebook. So, last night, I am in band in our youth group. And in leadership, sign language, all of it. I am very, very involved with our church, especially our youth group. Sorry. So, the very last song, we had done practice this song. We've done it a lot. I don't know how many times, but we've done it a lot. I don't want to say hundreds because I know we haven't done it that much, but it's been a lot. So, the song is called All Things Together. And in verse 3, the chorus, it says, "You're the first, you're the last, you're forever. You're the one who brings spring out of winter. You're the promise and you are the keeper. You're the one who holds all things together." So that's the chorus of the song. But then you get to verse 3. In my serving, when I'm hidden. So when you are by yourself, serving God, will I trust the Father's seeds? Will you trust His plan? Will you follow Him? The next part says, when you call me, will I listen? When you are at school and someone comes up to you and says, hey, I don't know God. I see Him in your life. Show Him to me. Are we listening to that? Or are we just like, okay, this is scaring me. I'm not experienced enough for this. I can't lead you to Christ. We've got to have enough faith in God that He brought that person to us and He'll give us the right answers. Then another part of it is, why don't we step out of our comfort zone? And I am preaching to myself as much as I am talking to y'all. Why don't we step out of our comfort zone? This is our bubble. We've got our friend group, we've got our church. We're like, okay, I'm comfortable in this spot. I'm on fire in this spot. But if you step out of that spot and go to school, you're like, you know, I love Jesus. I'm going to sit here and pray to myself. My eyes open looking at the teacher. Which is a good thing. You should pray all the time. I'm not saying you shouldn't. But if you are praying to yourself like that, I'm not saying pray in front of other people, which is still good. But if you're not showing God through your actions, then nobody's going to know you're a Christian. Nobody's going to come to you, and you're not going to go to anybody. If you are drinking, smoking, cussing even if it's just a little word, people, and you claim to be a Christian, people are going to be like, you know, they're just a bunch of hypocrites. They're going off and saying all these things when in reality they're doing it just right here. They're doing it right in front of you. So when God is calling you, listen. And then the very last part that says, will I follow where you lead? Our destination, as soon as we ask God to forgive us of our sins, is heaven. It's heaven. Nobody can take us away from that. But I don't know what I believe in the once saved, always saved. I don't know. I'm not going to know until I get to heaven. But what I do know is if you are a child of God and you know it, you claim it, you're telling others about Christ, you're going to heaven. If you have integrity and are following God in His Word, instead by yourself, let alone just in front of other people, you're getting somewhere as soon as you ask Him into your heart. Then the response to that question is, I will follow where you lead. The part where I said all of that, I said on stage last night. Now, it wasn't that in depth or in that meaningful or deep in my heart, but that is where it was. Then we got off stage and Brother Casey said, thank you, Hannah. I did not tell her to do that. That was specifically her and what God had laid on her heart, and that felt good. But I wasn't doing that for like the gratitude or whatever. I just felt like I needed to say it. I got goosebumps. I felt something in my heart. It's just like, do it. That night, while I was also up there, I talked about running away from God. Will we follow where He leads? Are we going away from Him? If you've ever read the story of Jonah and the whale, you know he ran away from God and God chased him with a fish. That's what my pastor preached on last night. The same thing I said in my little special was the same thing our youth pastor preached on the same night. And I've never done that before. When God tells you to do something, listen. Whether it's telling someone about Christ, texting someone, say, how are you today? Anybody can walk up and say, hey, how are you? And good, I'm doing pretty good. But how much effort does it take for us to go, hey, how are you? I'm okay. Are you really? How much more effort is that? We're reaching out to someone who is hurting, who might be hurting. If God tells you to do something, do it. It's not that hard. So if you want to, you can go with me to Jonah 1:3-17. If I can find it myself, that might help. I haven't prepared this at all. I've just got my notes from Brother Casey last night, who is our youth pastor. So, starting in verse 3, or Jonah 1:3-17. Jonah got up to flee to Tarshish from the Lord's presence. He went down to Joppa, and by the way, I have a CSB, so in case you can't follow along, I have a CSB, and found a ship going to Tarshish. He paid the fare and went down into it to go with them to Tarshish from the Lord's presence. But the Lord threw a great wind onto the sea, and such a great storm arose on the sea that the ship threatened to break apart. The sailors were afraid, and each cried out to his God, not God, their God. If you look, mine, that God is lowercase, so it's a different God than our God. They threw the ship's cargo into the sea to lighten the load. Meanwhile, Jonah had gone down to the lowest part of the vessel and stretched out and fallen into a deep sleep. So you gotta realize, in the middle of this, I'm just calling it a hurricane, okay? In this middle of a hurricane, Jonah's sleeping in the boat, in the very bottom of it. Then the captain, in verse 6, the captain approached him and said, "What are you doing sound asleep? Get up! Call to your God," again, lowercase g. "Maybe this God will consider us and won't perish." Hold on, I'm sorry. This is Mia. This is my 5-week-old kitten. She's being loud. I'm sorry. That's my spot. Maybe this God will consider us and we won't perish. Come on! The sailors said to each other, "Let's cast lots. Then we'll know who to blame for this trouble we're in." So they're practically saying, okay, if we throw Jonah over and it calls, we know it's his fault. They didn't care if it was his fault or not. They were throwing him over. So they cast lots. Oh, where am I at? So they cast lots, and the lot singled out Jonah. And they said to him, "Tell us, who is to blame for this trouble we are in? What is your business, and where are you from? What is your country, and what people are you from?" Verse 9 says, "He answered, I'm a Hebrew. I worship the Lord, the God, capital G, of the heavens, who made the sea and the dry land." Then the men were seized by a great fear and said to him, "What is this you've done?" The men knew he was fleeing from the Lord's presence because he had told them. So he told them, "Oh, by the way, guys, I'm running from God. What should we do to you so that the sea will calm down for us?" So they're asking Jonah, what can we do to you so we don't die? Which is exactly what they were asking. He answered them, "Pick me up and throw me into the sea so that it will calm for you, for I know that I am the one for blame. For this great storm is against you." 13 says, "Nevertheless, the men rowed hard to get back to dry land, but they couldn't because the sea was raging against them more and more. So they called out to the Lord, 'Please, Lord.'" The people who were talking about the gods called out to our God and said, "Please, Lord, don't let us perish because of this man's life, and don't charge us with the innocent blood. For you, Lord, have done just as you pleased." Then they picked up Jonah and threw him into the sea. And the sea stopped its raging. The men were seized by great fear of the Lord, and they offered a sacrifice to the Lord and made vows. Then the last verse says, "The Lord appointed a great fish to swallow Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights." Real quick. We got it. Alright. I'm trying to find this one part. Alright. Then you gotta realize this entire time, Jonah has not prayed to God. God told him to do something, he ran away. Bye! Sorry. If you look in chapter 2, verse 1, Jonah prayed. And this was the big point with Brother Casey. This whole time, we have been in the midst of troubles, trials, a bunch of crap in our life. And finally, Jonah prayed to the Lord, his God, from the belly of the fish. "I called to the Lord in my distress, and he answered me." When we call to God, whether it's through his word or actually responding, he's gonna respond. Sometimes his response isn't always yes, but he always answers. "I cried out for help from deep inside the Sheol. You heard my voice. You threw me into the depths, into the heart of the seas, and the current overcame me. All your breakers and billows swept over me, but I said, I have been banished from your sight. Yet I will look once more toward your holy temple. The water engulfed me up to the neck. The watery depths overcame me. Seaweed was wrapped around my head. I sank to the foundations of the mountains. The earth gates were shut behind me forever. Then you raised my life from the pit, Lord my God." Now, in my Bible, the word pit, that P in there, is capitalized. The pit. I want to ask a question, which isn't what he said, but what is a pit in our life? I'm sorry. I got chill. What is something that we struggle to get out of? Or maybe it's something we've gotten out of, but we keep going back to it. We can't stop. One of my Bible, I'll show you, it's got hope words in it. This is a Tony Evans CSB Bible, study Bible. So it's got that little hope words and the content at the bottom. But it said, when it is out of control, it is just simply out of your control. Listen to that. When our life is going crazy all around us, and we are stuck in our pit and can't do anything, and it's not in our control anymore, I was gonna say, guess who's in control? But I believe who is in control of our life is who we are letting control our life. If we are giving to God and worshiping and praising him through his word, through our actions, through what we say, I believe God is in control of our life. But if we are sinning, drinking, alcohol, pornography, sexual sin, adultery, lying, we're letting Satan control our sin. We're letting Satan control our lives. Who are we letting control our lives? That's all I'm gonna say for today. I'm not gonna be one of those people that are like, okay guys, now it's time to comment and subscribe, like everything else. Or I don't know which side it's on. I'm gonna figure that out later. But please, if you have anything you would like me to talk about, or just anything, please comment and let me know. I will take your opinions highly into consideration, because at some point I'm gonna run out of ideas. And I've got this little notebook right here, and it specifically says YouTube. So I will put those ideas in here, and I will do them eventually. Help me, believers and Christians, to make God's kingdom bigger. Because someday He is coming back. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Thank y'all so much for watching my very first video. I'm Hannah Grace.